Welcome everyone. This is a different kind of stream today, right? I have been streaming Magic Arena quite a bit, and instead of doing that today, I think I'm gonna stream some Diablo. This game is like super close to my heart, man. Boy, don't I love it. It's got everything. This is like the perfect game. I mean, there's so much that's just so well designed about it. Like, I mean, from the dueling aspect to like the looting aspect, like loot drops, the random rolls you can get on shit. Like, it's so good, man. Like, even just like the probability of maps and like the different worlds that you could, the different ways that a world can morph, like when you join a game. It makes really like replaying the game every time almost like a brand new experience. You're not used to like knowing where to go. You got to kind of find your way, every time. And it's like I said, it's pretty well designed and pretty well balanced. Like when it comes to dueling, I'm not sure how many people do like PvP in games or whatnot, but the player versus player in Diablo 2 is probably one of the best designed games, one of the best designed like dueling systems ever in any game. But yeah, so we have a ladder reset that's going to be happening on Friday. So that's pretty exciting, man. So what am I doing? I'm getting ready, man. I'm getting ready. It's going to be an exciting day. I think it's going to happen at like 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I want to say. But regardless, I think it happens around 8 p.m. on the East Coast, which is where I'm at. So this past season, I didn't really grind much in ladder, but I think I'm going to try it this season. So Friday, look out for that. Like, we're going to be, as soon as the realms are back up from ladder reset, we're going to be on it. We're going to be grinding and just seeing how good we can do. But this is some of the shit that I accumulated this ladder season. And this is basically from like trading and from picking up random shit that people have dropped on the ground. Sometimes they meant for others to pick it up, and sometimes they didn't. But hey, that's not my problem. So this is just some of the stuff I got from trading, like some really nice IAS jewels with resistances. Whole shit ton of those, man. Some really nice LLD jewel. Couple of nice enhanced damage IAS jewels. Those are really good. Like we were just talking about dueling for. This game is so well designed for dueling, and this is like just one of those things that's so perfect. And hey, Tayo Bite, thanks for the follow, man. Much appreciated. So yeah, this is the extent of what I've accumulated this latter season. Basically, like there's been some other things. Like I have some other items that I use on MF chars or whatnot. But this is the good stuff. Reset's gonna be sweet, Tayabyte. Like this is gonna be big, man. I was just saying, like I didn't really hit it hard this past season. Like I didn't really grind hard on ladder. I feel like every time you do it, like every time you hit ladder hard and you really go after it in a season, you kind of get tired of it towards the end of the season. And I think that's what I saw at the start of this season. I was like, I grinded so hard in the previous season. I did, I got a lot of stuff. But now I'm just like, and now I got that itch again. Like this next ladder reset, I think it's going to be awesome. But yeah, check out some of the stuff that I got. Like this crafted Ami, it could have some better cast on it, but the stats are sick. I always think about going for 99 and never go through with it. Man, it is tough. So I have completed it on 2 different accounts, like in 2 different characters, and I'm telling you, I will never do it again. Like it is, the grind to 98 is bad enough, but for whatever reason, from 98 to 99 is the absolute stone worst. It is the worst. Like, you have to do around like 5,000 runs to get from 98 to 99. It's so stupid. Like, that's on like one or two players, but like, I mean, obviously the more players you get, like the faster it goes, and 96 is a pretty good level too. Like, as far as dueling goes, like, depending on your character, you really don't ever need to be that high. You know what I mean? Like, if you're really big into PvP, then, and you're a barbarian, let's say, like, then maybe your level matters a little bit. Like, then if you're really hardcore about dueling, maybe get to 99. You know what I mean? It does make a slight difference, and I could actually cover that in a bit, like the things that I know about, like the difference that your level makes, and you know, it's kind of huge if you're a melee character. But you know, if you're like a sorceress or a necromancer, you really don't need to be over like level 95, 96. Like, that's just as good as 99 in most cases. But yeah, I'm just showing off some of the stuff that I got this season. I'm actually super excited because as soon as ladder resets, after we're done the grind on Friday, I'm going to switch over so much of this stuff to my low-level dueler. And I don't know if you guys have ever done that before, like low-level dueling on Diablo. It is a whole different world. Like, it's a whole different world of gameplay. I mean, you go from, like, high levels, it's just a whole different community, too. Like, it's you know, the high levels is just kind of, you go into a game, sometimes you get respectful people, sometimes you don't. Like, sometimes people just go in and bad manner the hell out of you, and, you know, it's just kind of a free-for-all. LLD, it's, you know, typically a pretty good community. It can be kind of catty at sometimes, but, you know, it's, all of the characters are, like, really well designed. So, like, low-level dueling is basically level 30 or under. There's different tiers to it, too. There's, like, level 18s, even level 9s, which is insane. But, like, some level 30s can do ridiculous damage. In fact, I'll show you a character here in a second after I'm done kind of showing off these spoils that will go on to some of these characters on reset. I'll show you one of them. He's level 30, and he does almost 7,000 damage. Like, which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you look at, like, a high level, that's probably, you know, not much, but 7,000 is pretty insane for a level 30. You know what I mean? You can one-shot some people. I've actually tried to... I do some trolling every once in a while. Like, I like to go into public games and just, like, you know, mess with the players that are there, especially if they're high levels, and I like to do it with my low-level dueler, just to see if they'll engage in any duel, you know? You win some, you lose some. You're probably not going to beat a really decked out, like, high level, but... it can be fun. Sometimes you can get lucky. Yeah, 7k is what your Blizz hits on a Sork at level 92. Yeah, see, the thing is, mine is a charger, though. So, like, the damage works a little differently. Like, the 7k damage on charge is, you're basically, in PvP, you're taking all of that minus some algorithm, you know what I mean? With Blizz, on, like, a cold Sork, the most important skill that they have is cold mastery. And, like, the higher level that is, the more damage you do, but you don't see necessarily. Like, so you could have a 7k Blizz Sork, right? But you could get one-shotted by him. You know what I mean? And you think, like, oh, 7k, when you divide that by 6, which I think is the PvP nerfing that they do, you're like, oh, I can take a little over 1,000 damage, you know what I mean? And then you get one-shotted by it. It's because of cold mastery, man. Like, it works so much differently than any other mastery from sorceresses. Like, fire mastery and lightning mastery will increase the damage that you do with fire and light, but cold mastery actually rips your opponent's resistances away. So suddenly it's really, really good, especially if they didn't have good cold resist in the first place. Like, then your damage just gets insane. I mean, let's say they had 50 cold resist and you have, like, a level 20 cold mastery. That's, like, I think it's 5 resist per level on that it rips away. So, I mean, you put them in the negatives for resist, plus whatever you have for facets. Oh, it just gets insane, man. So yeah, you got to stack up on cold resist against those guys. But, yeah, these are the things that are going to go on my low-level duelers. Like, I'm not sure if you've heard of 3-20-20 charms. like 3 max damage, 20 attack rating, 20 life. Those are for high level duelers, right? But you can almost get the exact same thing on a low level charm. Like it's pretty sweet. Like you can get up to 3 max damage, 20 AR, and 15 life. Like if you're doing level 30 or under, that's the best charm you can get for there. And it's like it's the only difference of like 5 life for for a charm that's in 5 life and however many levels, you know what I mean? So it's makes it so you can do some pretty massive damage at a pretty low level. So I'm happy. I got like 10 or 11 of these things this season with life. Like these are all 3 max damage, some AR and some life. And then these right here from my Zon, man. Like these are good. These charms right here that we're looking at are good on high level Zons and low level Zons, man. Like if you have a level 30 Zon or below, this is still good because even high level Zons use these charms. Like you want to have a lot of faster run walk if you're on a Zon, because if you don't have Enigma, you just want to run people down. And if you run fast enough, you can actually desync the game, and your opponent doesn't actually know how close you are to them. You don't pop up correctly on their screen. So these are super useful to work towards that. But yeah, a lot of Zons like flood their inventory with these. So I got a few of those this season. I'm going to switch those over. I haven't figured out if I'm going to put them on my high level Zon when ladder resets, or if I'm going to put them on the low level. My low level is trash. Like she isn't fully geared yet. She needs a lot of stuff. So maybe we'll put them on the fun high level Zon. But I'm so pumped about this for my low level druid, man. Look at this. When ladder resets, my low level dueling druid is gonna get a nasty helm. Look at this. Level 30 requirement, man. It's got 5 tornado, which is a very important skill for a wind druid. And then it's got 10 faster hit recovery, which is something that your druid's gotta have. Like you gotta hit certain breakpoints with that. It's got some cold resist in there, right? Like a pretty important resist. We were just talking about this. Like when you have a sorceress, a cold sorceress, ripping away your resistances, every little bit helps, man. But on top of that, it's got 2 sockets. Like I can put anything in that. This is awesome, man. I'm pretty pumped about that. So there's certain items that I'm excited for when ladder resets. After we get done the ladder grind on Friday, I might just throw some of these onto my low level duelers and just see what like nasty stuff we can do. So yeah, I also got some decent rings. Like look at this beast, man. Really good for like a barb versus caster. It's got a lot of life, a lot of mana on it, minimum damage, cast, and cold resist, dude. Pretty sick ring. Kind of similar to this. This has just got a little bit of replenish life instead of minimum damage. And this is also very similar. So, I might stack those on the barb and just go ham, man. See how he does. Look at this Amy, too. Pretty dope. Yeah, really high stats. I really wish that was like +2 assassin skills. That would be insane. But the stats on it are pretty sweet. The life is pretty sweet, and the resistances, yeah, of course. Like that's pretty decent all around right there. If anyone was wondering, I do play on US East, so there's a bunch of different realms you can play on. Like you can play on I think it's like the Europe realm now. They combined Europe and Asia into one realm, and then there's US West and there's US East. I've just always been a player on US East, so here we are. I also have this beauty, which I've been looking for one of these for a while. Like, I'm not sure if you guys have ever built a poison necro, but they are fun, man. They are really fun. I always thought, like, when I first started building necros, I started building, like, the bone spear, bone spirit type necros, like the magic damage skills. They were trash in PVM. Like, a Poison Nova Necro owns monsters. Triabite from the UK but plays on US East. Seems the most populated. Does it? Have you played on any other servers? Like, have you played on US West at all? Or have you played on the Europe server? I personally never have, but I've always wondered if they're equally as populated, if, Played on Western Europe. Yeah, it's so you got some experience with different servers. Like that's clutch, man. I've always wondered if there was a different server out there that was more popular, but it looks like US East is where it's at. Yeah, just some more low level stuff right here, like low level wand. I just can't wait, man. Got some decent Annihilus charms. Like, oh my god. So I uploaded something on my YouTube channel. This was insane. So, have you ever hunted D-Clone before? Like, D-Clone is a very elusive creature, right? He basically spawns when enough players on a certain server sell so many SOJs to any merchant in the game. And eventually, if you sell enough, it's usually around like 100 or 120. D-Clone will spawn, and he's like some Uber version of Diablo. Well, he will drop this charm, and he is the only monster in the game that will drop this charm if you beat him. And so most Diablo fans know that. But I uploaded a video, 2 of them to be specific, to my YouTube channel. And in one night, I kid you not, one night, 7 D-Clones. I kid you not. It is the most D-Clones I've ever gotten in any given week, let alone a day, right? I just noticed that like one server was selling a ton of SOJs. So what I did was I had 3 other computers with Diablo on them. I'm a hardcore fan. And I basically loaded up and hunted for that server with all of the computers and like put a dude in a game, in a separate game on the same server. And it popped. Like, I couldn't believe it. So, not only did it pop once, though. You might be asking, like, how did you get 7 if you only have 4 computers, right? I'm getting there. So, I kid you not. All 4 of those games got them, right? D-Clone got some sick Annihilus charms. One of them was, like, 18-9 or something like that. Like, really high. As I was killing D-Clone on this server, as I'm killing D-Clone, SOJs keep selling. Like, they keep selling SOJs. I keep seeing the messages pop up, which is really odd. Like, it's super, super odd. Because usually when people sell enough SOJs and they pop the server and it says Diablo walks the earth, they stop selling SOJs, right? Like, you've sold enough SOJs, you've spawned Diablo good enough, right? Not for these guys. Like, whoever was popping the server that night, it was insane. They continued to sell SOJs. And by the time I killed the 4th Diablo, I looked at the SOJ count, and it was up like 50 or 60 since it just popped. And I'm like, okay, well, I've killed all of these clones. Might as well hunt for the same server again. You know what I mean? I don't think D-Clone can spawn twice in the same game, so you have to create a different one. So here I am, like, 4 computers, trying so hard to get all 4 of them on the same server. I managed to get 3, and this was non-ladder. I managed to get 3 in the games before it popped again. And I'm like, this is insane, man. It was so crazy. 7 Annihiluses in one night. It was stupid. I've never been that lucky, especially non-ladder. Like, ladder seems to pop a lot. Like, there's a lot of people that have incentive to just get Annihilus charms on ladder because they tend to be worth more. There's typically more people that play ladder. And the die-hard people that are on non-ladder, they typically only want perfect stuff. So, like, if it's not perfect or close to perfect, it's basically worthless on non-ladder. But, yeah, I'd never seen it like that, especially on non-ladder, man. It looked like someone just had, like, a cache of SOJs that they were just storing and waiting to sell. And sure enough, they decided that night was the night, and lucky old me just profited off of their hard work. It was great. But yeah, I'll actually show you that low-level dueler that we were talking about, man. Let's see. Yeah, it's this guy right here. So, yeah, this guy's a beast. I got so many Annihilus charms. This was probably one from that day. I ended up putting them on characters that could never use them, right? Like, here's one just chilling. But yeah, look at this guy's stuff, man. So he basically has Honor, which is a rune word that you can use that's, you know, below level 30. It's made in like some kind of jank ass Naga. Like a Naga is basically a exceptional version of a axe, I believe, or not an axe, but a war axe. And it's only like 12% superior. So it was made out of a superior Naga. And, you know, this is just the base weapon. It's got some really cool stuff. And like the coolest part about it, which I think kind of makes it irreplaceable on this build, is it has 25% deadly strike. And that basically means you have a 25% chance to just double your damage, right? So 1 out of every 4 hits with this guy does about 14,000 damage. It's pretty insane, man. Pretty insane. Or I should say it has the potential to do 14,000 damage, because you can kind of see the charge range with this guy. Like it's anywhere from 1,200 to almost 7,000. But, you know, his resistances are a little suspect, as you can see. But he's got some sick stuff, man, that I've just kind of collected over the years. A buddy of mine in a LLD game actually just like gave me this, which is pretty sweet. It's basically it might not look like anything special. Like if you're used to seeing like uniques and rune words and stuff, you might be like, that's not really that great. It's a magic item. Like how can it be that great? But it's actually really rare, because it's a magic item that spawned 28 enhanced damage and 74 to life on it, which is more than can actually spawn on a circlet. Like if you had a rare circlet, it's actually more life than what is allowed to spawn on a rare one. So, and it's still usable at level 30. So you have more life, you have 28 enhanced damage, and admittedly, you can get 30 enhanced damage on a rare circlet, but you know, it's very rare you would find one that's level 30 or under. It'd just be a god tier. But yeah, and then most of all, we put it through the socket quest, and I actually didn't know this until recently. Like, I mean, within the last couple of years. But like, did you know that with magic items, you can get 2 sockets you can potentially get 2 sockets from Larzuk's quest? I did not know that. Like, I didn't know it until, like I said, just about 2 years ago. It seemed like up to that point, every item that I had socketed that was magic, or really otherwise, got 1 socket. Like, unless I was socketing a basic, like, white item, they'd always just get 1 socket. So I just assumed you get 1 socket out of Larzuk. But no, with magic items, if the item can have 2 or more sockets, you can get 2 sockets, which is solid. So this one was socketed by Larzuk. There's a 50-50 chance that you get 2 sockets. It nailed it, got the 2 sockets, and the previous owner had put some jewels in this that it's some like mixture of minimum damage and maximum damage, and that's why you see the adds 12 to 34 damage there. Like, it's some mixture of minimum and maximum damage. And when you have both of those on the same item, and your minimum damage is lower than what the addition to your maximum damage is, it'll just combine and say adds this much to this much damage. So yeah, this one's pretty sweet. It's basically adding anywhere between 12 to 34 damage, which when you think, there's a whole bunch of stuff that just amps up the damage that you do, including the helm. Like, it gives you 28. Take that 12 to 34 and enhance it by 30% just about. And then check this shield out. Like, enhance that by 65%. You know, admittedly, the shield could be better. Ideally, you could make it in something like this, which eventually, when I get the jewels, I'll probably do. When I get more of these 24 max jewels, I might just do that, put them all in here. It's also a better block rate on that shield, which, like, I'm not sure if you watch speedrunners or anything. They don't like to block. And in player versus monster mode, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, you know, you can just avoid the monsters. If you ever do player versus player, you're going to want block. Like, there's so many vicious builds out there that just, they can one-shot you. Like, I'm not sure if you've ever gone against, like, a smiter that also uses charge. Like, obviously, smite will always hit you, but, like, as they're chasing you down, if you're not blocking the hits from their Grief Berserker Axe or their, you know, Grief Phase Blade, you're going to take a lot of damage and you might just die from it. Like, it's, you know, so you got to be able to block. And especially with, like, Amazons, when you have Amazons shooting at you, like, you got to have some block, man. You gotta protect yourself. Those lost frames don't matter in PvP, all right? It's all about blocking and not dying. But, yeah, so eventually I'm going to build that shield up. This guy's kind of like he's like a, you know, sort of a pet character over here. Here's the basic Blood Fists, well, basic but upped. So I increased those from, like, regular heavy gloves to shark skin gloves for a bit more defense. Some pretty cool rings, like, admittedly not the best, but still pretty solid. Like, you know, it's got 4 to minimum damage. 5 is the max you can have. I think on any, on an LLD ring, like a low-level dueling ring, 5 to minimum damage is the most you can go. So that's pretty close. I think 120 to attack rating is the highest, but still 95 is nothing to shake a stick at, man. It's pretty good, especially when you have a physical damage character where you're actually trying to hit your opponent. Yeah, it's got some life. 20 is max on a low-level dueling ring. 90 to mana is max on a low-level dueling ring. It's got 88. And the cold resistance could be a little better. Like, I think 30 is the max on a low-level dueling ring, depending. Like, you could get an all-resistance roll that could bring it up higher, but that's the max. And as we were talking about, cold resist is insane. Like, you got to have it. Can't be getting one-shotted by those Blizz Sorks, right? But, yeah, then this is just another one over here. 5 to minimum damage, some mana. I have a couple of switches over here. Like, I can switch between these. You know, some more cold resist depending on what I'm going against. Lightning resist depending on what I'm going against. But yeah, like, these are wicked fun, man. And this is a pretty sweet amulet, right? Like, what other build does this belong on? Well, I shouldn't ask that, because there's probably some others that this would be decent on, maybe even better. But yeah, this is sick, man. It's got cast, which is not necessarily important because I don't cast much, but it's got max damage, +2 to combat skills, 55 to life, and some resistance. And that's not bad for a level 30 amulet, man. Like, pretty solid. This Artisan's Mage Plate of the Squid, yet another magic item. You know, not rare, not unique, not a rune word, but I wouldn't have anything else, man. Like, watch how much damage this adds to the total. Like, if I take this armor off, right? Like, it drops it just about 1,000. Like, drops my maximum damage by just about 1,000. So you put this armor on, bam. Look at that. Like, so this 66 to max damage is a little deceptive. Like, it's almost like the Blizz Sork with Cold Mastery makes their skills a little deceptive. Whenever you see maximum damage on an item that's not a weapon, it's a little deceptive because it actually sees all of the bonuses that you get from anything else. And I'm talking not just your items, like your shield, the helm here, but also, like, skills. That 66 damage will get boosted by these skills. So, like, this skill might gives me plus 220% damage. So, you know, that's obviously a lot different than if I take the aura off. You see, we also lose about 1,000 damage there. So, you know, all of that, like, compacted just makes that plus to max damage pretty insane. So, yeah, man. I could join some duel games, but I checked before I started the stream. There wasn't, like, too many going on for LLD. Like I said, it's an interesting community. It's one that, like, it'll either be thriving one day or be dead the next. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of hit or miss. There's some really cool people in it, though. Like I said, one of the people just really cool. I dueled with him for a while, and he gave me that helm, man. Like, that's really rare. Like, you don't see people rocking those a lot. There's not really a high demand for them. Like, who is like, oh man, yeah, give me that magic deadly circlet of the squid. Like, you know what I mean? When you're talking about items that you've, like, acquired in Diablo, that's usually not at the top of the list. You know, you have, like, Crown of Ages and all of that stuff that you could talk about, but, you know, not a lot of people know that that's a good one for low-level dueling right there. But, yeah, that's the basic setup, man. I also got some jabs to hit people from a distance, cut them open with open wounds. Just keep them on the ropes, man. keep these guys on the ropes. But yeah, so also other characters that I can't wait to beef up. Let me show you another guy. So, yeah, I might actually rebuild this right here. I'm going to join a hell game so you can see the actual resistances. Yeah, terrible. But this is an interesting character. I've never really been good with Zons. I still am not. But this character is so fun. Has anyone played a Zon before? Like, they are super powerful when it comes to monsters. Like, if you're just trying to own the game, you know, go through, beat Diablo, beat Bale, you know, just beat the game as it should be played. This character, if you build it right, like it kills Bale the absolute quickest out of any character I know. But this one's built a little different. Like, it's built for dueling, right? So I don't necessarily have like the what is the skill called? It's Charge Strike, I think. Yeah, I didn't stat Charge Strike, which is like the big skill that you kill most monsters with. Nope, this girl does things a little differently. She might look like she's kind of a Javazon, the way I have her positioned right now. This girl's actually a Bozon. This girl ain't messing around. She's got a faith. You know, it's nothing special. Like, it's not a perfect roll or anything, but you really don't need a perfect roll with faith. Like, spoiler alert to most people that just look for like perfect items. Pick up the non-perfects all day, like, especially with faith. That one level of fanaticism only matters if you have a very specific type of build. For the most part, that level is actually not going to make the difference of you hitting the break point, which 99% of Zons have that build where you're, you know, the one level doesn't matter. You can see that the first skill says level 14 fanaticism aura when equipped. It can go to level 15. The only thing you don't want on this bow is if it rolls 12. Like, that's the bad one. I think there's actually certain builds that roll between level 12 and level 13 actually makes the difference of you not hitting a breakpoint. So that's pretty important. Don't take the 12s, but don't fight too hard or pay too much for the 15s, man. But this helm right here, I'm super pumped about this. People who are like big traders right now, like in the JSP community or whatnot, they might not agree with me. But let me tell you what I traded for this helm, like in game, right? I traded a 40-15 Jewel, like 40 ED, 15 IAS, and ED is enhanced damage, for a helm that is like this, right? It's got a whole bunch of good stuff. It's 2 Amazon skills, 30 faster run walk, and kind of like what we were talking about, like, faster run walk is huge for a Zon. You basically want to be able to run down your opponent in PvP. Or even if you're a Bozon, you want to, like, escape. If someone's putting a lot of pressure on you, you want to escape. But this helm, not only does it have all of these cool skills, like, you know, 2 to skills, 30 faster run walk, 6 dexterity, 26 life, it's 2 socketed. Right? And more importantly, do you know what's in those 2 sockets? And this is why I didn't have any trouble trading a 40-15 for it. There's 2 40-15s in this helm. So, I mean, that's basically what I was holding off for to build with, with the 40-15 that I had. So this guy gave me like this helm that has all of these nasty stats on it and has 2 40-15 jewels in it. For a 40-15 Jewel. I'm like, all right, man, like, that works out perfect. I actually had another helm that I was using. I might have taken it off this guy, but it was like a magic version of this helm. It was just 2 Zon skills, 30 faster run walk, and I socketed it and got 2 sockets, and I put some like jank IAS jewels in there. But yeah, it was kind of like a dumbed down version of this helm. So I'm like super happy to have that. Yeah, she got the pretty standard cat's eye for Amazons. Like, they usually want cat's eye over, and this is important, specifically over High Lords. Because High Lords, while it does give Deadly Strike, Zons actually don't need Deadly Strike. A lot of people don't know that. They have these mastery skills, right? So like you have Critical Strike as a mastery skill, and if you get that high enough, Critical Strike and Deadly Strike are actually the exact same thing. Like as far as the game works, they're exactly the same thing. So if you have 70 in Critical Strike, Deadly Strike of say 20 will just add on to that, right? So it will be, you know, in this case, if I had High Lords, it would be 90% chance of of Critical Strike versus the regular 70. But you can also run stuff like that amps up your Critical Strike anyway. Like you could run Gore Riders, you know, you could run, you know, there's actually there's a hybrid version of this bow, which also has Deadly Strike on it. Yeah, so Tayabite says, my problem is I haven't played in years, so we'll end up throwing stuff away I don't realize is good. I can't tell you how many times I've probably done that in the past. I still remember this clear as day. I was gambling one day, and I was gambling for like circlets and diadems or whatnot, because, you know, in my head I'm like, I'm going to get this one, which is like super rare. But what ended up popping up was I gambled a diadem that had 3 open sockets and 30 faster run walk on it. And I looked at it as kind of like a newer player back in the day, and I was like, that kind of looks cool, but I'm just going to sell it. So I sold it right back to like Geed or whoever I gambled it from. And apparently, like, you know, years later, I went on JSP, and like those were at the time like 200 forum gold or whatnot. Like people were selling those for so much. I'm like, oh man, I still remember staring at that item as I gambled it and was like, wow, I didn't know these could get 3 sockets and it has faster unlock. Sell. Like, it's happened all the time, man. And I'll tell you, there's so many different ways items can spawn and like so many different stats that can spawn on them. It's honestly confusing to like remember what's good in what situation. It like literally just, you know, I have played this game for years now, man, and like I still don't understand some stuff, you know. So don't feel bad, man. It's happened to us all. Like we've all sold stuff where we're like, yeah, this is garbage, but truth be told, it's not. But yeah, I was talking about the faith and like the Deadly Strike and Critical Strike. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of hybrid items, and Tayabite, if you haven't heard about these are relatively new. They're kind of taboo, but they're cool as hell, man. Like I'm a programmer in like my real life, right? Like my day job, I'm a programmer. So whenever I see stuff that's like, you know, crazy and required a lot of programming and manipulation, it blows my mind. I'm like, this is nuts. So this is what these hybrid items are. They basically figured out a way to do what's called it's like stale reference manipulation. Like someone figured this out, how to like basically attack BattleNet and do stale reference manipulation. And they used a ton of like, you know, they sent a ton of packets to the server and just basically overloaded it and tricked it. And they eventually tricked it so much the game forgot what was going on. And they were able to take all of the runes out of a rune word such as faith, right? And replace those runes with other runes that made a different rune word. So they're called hybrids. It's kind of cool, man. Like if you want to see how it looks and like how it works, there's actually some videos up on YouTube. Just you can type in hybrid items Diablo 2 or like how to make hybrid items Diablo 2. Someone put out a video back in the day that showed all of the crazy stuff that they had to do to make them. But basically hackers like made these sick items. So they basically allowed you to take the runes in that rune word, remove them, and then replace them. But here's the kicker, right? You would think that when you remove those rune words or remove those runes, that all of the effects would go away. Well, that's where the stale reference manipulation came into play. They overloaded the server to the point where or the game, to the point where it realized that there were no runes in the item, but it did not realize that the item was not a rune word. That sounds really crazy. It sounds really out there, but trust me, from like a programmer standpoint, that's exactly how it works. Like they overwhelmed the game. And then the game is actually from way back in the day, it's actually programmed to recognize that and to say, hey, someone just tricked me. You know what I mean? Like someone just tricked me. I know this is a bad item. So it actually puts the rune word if on it, like the rune, if. And it will delete the item as soon as you leave the game. So that's why they built another rune word into it, to get the effects of those runes, but also to keep the item live. I think, well, actually, if you remember back in the day, Tyobite, do you remember the if items? Like, they used to have, basically, they made silence, and it was a ethereal colossus blade. They basically made a I'm not sure if it was a breath of the dying or a silence, but they made that rune word, and they basically did the same thing. They did stale reference manipulation, and they overwhelmed the game, took all of the runes out of it, but kept all of the bonuses, and then they filled it up with like other jewels and stuff like in place of those runes. And then yes, also through stale reference manipulation, you can duplicate items. There's a lot of stuff you can do. They actually had to dupe the item in the process of making the hybrid item. It was really weird, man. It was, as a programmer, like watching that video, I was so blown away. I was like, who does this stuff? Like, who sits there and is like, you know what? I'm going to figure out the exact packets to send to BattleNet and to overload it in this certain regard, and then rip all the runes out of my items and replace them with something else. Like, I'm happy they did. Those items, in my opinion, are wicked cool. Like I said, they're kind of taboo in the community. Some people like don't mind you using them. Other people call them bad mannered. But I think they're wicked cool, man. I actually have one if you want to see it. It is pretty nasty, dude. And if you watch any of my YouTube videos, you can actually see me duel with this character right here, which is kind of fun, man. He's a wicked fun character to duel with. So, all right, this is the item I'm about to show you. I actually have two of them on this character, and they are insane. Like, so let me build it up, right? So when you see a paladin that's using a sword that sort of looks like this, like, what do you think they're using? Like, you would usually think that they're like running Grief Phase Blade, right? Well, much like I talked about, there's certain people that did this right here. Like, they basically ripped runes out of regular items and replaced them with other runes to make a different rune word. So what we have here in this hybrid item is, it's actually a Grief Phase Blade, right? But the runes had been ripped out of it and replaced with the runes from Destruction to make the Destruction rune word. And what that led to, like what that gives you for an advantage, right, is, first of all, you have all of the, if you can see the plus 400 damage, which is one of the unique attributes that rolls off from Grief, like, you get that. And then you also get, right, when you take all of those base rune words out, like the base, like Ethter, Low, Mal, Ral, they all give certain benefits when they go into an item. Those benefits leave the item when those specific runes are taken out. When you put Vex, Low, Bear, Jaco in place of that, you not only get the 20% deadly strike that comes with the low rune, which is also on the Grief Phase Blade, but you get the rune effects from the rune Bear, too. So you get, as you can see, 20% chance of crushing blow, which does not exist on a regular Grief. So that's why this one in particular is pretty important. Also, 10 to Dexterity doesn't exist on a regular Grief. Most of the other stats are pretty, they're like pretty much what you'd expect on a Grief. But this is just slightly better for many, many reasons. Like, or I should say massively better for very few reasons is basically what it is. And like, they can't make these items anymore. Like, they patched the loophole that was allowing people to do it. So like, they're kind of like those old school like 1.08 patch items where they're likely never going to get made again, and you know the value of these items will likely go up over time. But yeah, so that's one of them right there. It's just basically a grief with 20% extra crushing blow, which if you're a smiter, if you're doing like Ubers or whatnot, crushing blow is super important. You know, it's even important in dueling too. You know, basically what crushing blow is it's like if I have 20% chance of crushing blow, I have a 20% chance every time I hit somebody to take 10% of their life total away before I even do damage. Like, if it's calculated that, bam, yep, you hit the person, it instantly takes 10% of their life away, then does the damage that you were going to do. So crushing blow is pretty important, and the higher your chance is, it stacks up. Like, you know, if you have a 100% chance of crushing blow, well, it's going to happen every time. So, but yeah, this is the other one right here. Do you know can you guess what the base rune word is for this? What this was before it was a phoenix? I'll give you a second. But yes, it was spirit. That's exactly what it was. So yeah, you might have recognized like the 35% cast rate, like the mana, all of that. But this does not say spirit. It says phoenix. So basically the same thing, right? Like same reason. For a very few select number of reasons, this is infinitely better than a spirit. Like, not only do you get the faster cast rate, but if you see, you get plus 10 to your maximum fire resist, plus 5 to your maximum light resist, 50 to life, and what else is it? I think that's it, actually. Yeah, it's those 3 things that you get bonus in this. You do lose, like, the resistances that you gain from... I actually have a spirit on the switch over here. Like, you'll see that the cold resist, lightning resist, and poison resist are higher on this. You do lose those because you take out, like, your Tal Thul Ort runes. But in place of those, you get higher resists, that your resistances can possibly go. But yeah, also, this was a perfect spirit, like 100% perfect, before it was rolled into a phoenix. So that's also pretty insane. So it was made out of a 15% superior sacred targe with 45 resist stock on it, and then it rolled absolutely every stat perfect on a spirit, and then they ripped those runes out and replaced them with phoenix runes, and here we are. Like, we have a pretty busted item right there. But yeah, there's other hybrid items I could get with this guy, but at some point, it's kind of like Darth Vader, right? If you guys are Star Wars fans, at some point you're crossing the line of being real and being all machine. So, the slight enhancements are good, but I don't need to be all hybrided out. Just yet, anyway. Until I start getting beat ridiculously. Then I might consider it. Or I might just train and try to get better. But this is my favorite item that I own right here. This is Doombrow Diadem. Remember how I told you a lot of the items that I have came from either people like dropping things on the ground, or either purposely or unintentionally, and someone else getting them? I kid you not. I was in a parking game. I joined a park game just to go perm my mules. And this wasn't even a time where I was hunting for these types of people, right? Like, because people do this all the time, what I'm about to tell you. But, like, I see some high level come into the game. Or no, he wasn't a high level. He was a very low level. And ran over into the corner. Like, ran over into the corner of Act 1. Dropped all of his stuff on the ground in a public game. And then just, like, all I see on my map is I'm sitting there and I just see this guy go up in the corner. And then, after a little while, save and exit. And I'm like, well, I bet I know what he just did. So I go over and look, and this guy drops this on the ground. And, like, usually it wouldn't be bad. I'd be like, oh, here's, your items are trash. Here they are back. Haha. I saw this, and I almost shit myself. I'm like, this is the craziest helm I've ever seen in my life. Like, this is, for a paladin. I'm like, I'm making a whole paladin around it. So, here we are. This guy is insane. He's basically like his style. You can tell from like the YouTube videos. You can check me out. It's just search for East Duels, one word on YouTube, and I have some videos up. But yeah, like this guy is a very interesting build. He's a Hammerdin by trade, right? But he's also kind of a hybrid. He's a smiter / charger as well. So like he can do some nasty damage, and he's pretty versatile. Like you obviously run into some people that you know they have like the character advantage over you. Like he's not really good against like wind druids that really know what they're doing. You know, they just telestomp you and throw a NATO on you, and if they keep doing it very consistently and protect themselves, it's really hard to get them. But you know, it owns a lot of builds that like a Hammerdin shouldn't beat. And here's my secret sauce right here, right? This is my secret sauce. I bust this out in some of my videos because it's just fun, man. It is fun. Like, I have a bow on the Switch. I have Widowmaker on the Switch. So, I can switch my weapons, and suddenly I have a bow and arrow, right? It's just Widowmaker. And I use this because it gives you guided arrow. So, like, a lot of times, you'll have, like, barbarians that you're going up against, right? And you can't just sit there and like spin hammers like this and hope that they're gonna come after you. Like they're just gonna sit there, they're gonna wait, they're gonna try to stun you with leap and like push you out of your hammer field, and then they're gonna whirlwind on you. Like, you know, that's what they're trying to do. So instead of doing that, like instead of playing that game, you could just charge out, switch to the bow, and start shooting at them. And that, like, it's so fun to go against barbs because they all do the same thing. Like, as soon as they see arrows flying at them, right, they'll start coming in. Like, you can see them start teleporting back in and trying to get you while you have a bow and arrow out. Because if I don't have my shield out, I don't have any block. So, like, they want to hit you when you have your bow and arrow out because you are not blocking anything. So they're all charging in, and then you just switch and start spinning hammers. And then they won't stay out of your hammer field. They'll try to come into it because they're trying to whirlwind you while you have your bow and arrow out. And it's just it's a bad combination, man. Like, I've only lost to one BVC, which is a barb versus caster with this build. And he was pretty incredible. You could tell he played a barb for a long time. He was a very good dueler. But yeah, this is the basic build. It also works well for like just builds that are not trying to chase you. You know what I mean? If you go up against like if you've ever heard of a ghost sin, it's basically most of them are hybrid sins. They do like the whirlwind attack. They'll do like the teleport whirlwind, and they'll lay down some traps too. So they'll try to stun you with the traps, but the real damage comes from whirlwind. So it's really good against those guys too, because they'll typically just lay traps and wait for you to come to them. And you know, when you do, they'll start mind blasting you, stunning you, all of that. And then you're just trapped. Like, there's a small chance you're getting out. But instead, you can just sit back, blast them with a few arrows until they decide to come out of their little trap house. And then when they do, man, like, you can just charge in, you can smite them, you can throw some hammers. You can do a lot of stuff, man. So, yeah, this build is pretty versatile. Like, it's my favorite character I've ever built because when it comes to dueling, it has the largest range of characters that it can beat. You know what I mean? If you play like a certain build on Diablo, sometimes you just run into builds or even multiple builds that you just can't beat. You know, and it's not for any real fault of your own. It doesn't mean you're a bad player. It just means like you have a natural class disadvantage against that build. So like if I was a paladin, like I said, like a Hammerdin traditional, and I'm dueling against a elemental druid that's throwing tornadoes, you just naturally have a class disadvantage against that matchup. And you know, a lot of people think, oh, I can teleport and spin hammers, and you know, then they just die. It's not necessarily the case, man. Like, they have all of these pets that they can cast, like a ton of dire wolves or spirit wolves or whatnot. They have their oak sage, and not only does that oak sage benefit them, but it actually catches hammers for them. Like, I kid you not, your pets, if you're a druid, they catch hammers for you. So you can't just telestomp a wind druid and like kill him. because their pets are going to eat your hammers. And by that I mean, like, this is what happens. If you throw a hammer and you're a Hammerdin, as soon as that hammer hits any target, whether it's a player, a monster, or a pet of a player, the hammer dies. And what I mean by that is it can't deal any more damage. So that might not be true in player versus monster, like PVM. I don't think that's true, but in PvP it definitely is. Like, if it hits a pet or a player, it's dead. The hammer at that point can deal no more damage. So once it's hit once, it's done. So if you can imagine, you're like a wind druid, and then you teleport on top of a Hammerdin who's constantly spinning hammers, they might get 1 or 2 hammers off, but you have 5 pets in an oak stage all jam-packed on the same pixel that you just teleported on. So there's a very high chance you're actually not going to eat one of those hammers. Your pets are instead. So in that case, by the time it's taken them to throw 2 hammers, you've thrown about 2 tornadoes and the game's over. Like, they hit so hard that, like, you just have that natural, what we were talking about, like that class disadvantage. So yeah, there's, like I said, there's just certain builds that, you can't beat, and sometimes it's multiple ones. But this is my favorite character because it's got a very short list of builds that it can't beat. And even at that, the better you get at a build and the more you play it, like in PvP, the better you get with it. And sometimes when you have that class disadvantage, sometimes it's not much of a disadvantage because, like, you kind of know how to play and, like, what to do against those builds. So, but yeah, like, this guy is just super fun, man. So yeah, I also got some Crown of Ages in the stash for certain matchups. Whenever you go against a Barbarian, or actually I put this on for Zons, because it has that damage reduction on it. Like, Boa Zons, or I should say hybrid Zons, like kind of like the one that I was just showing you, they can be a problem for this. I've only met one person on East that, I mean, he is insane with a Zon. His name is Priest, and, like, he has played Zons for a long time, you can tell. Like, he is super good. He always seems to know, like, when to switch, when to run, like, what tactic to employ at every second. Like, so it makes it, if they're on their game and they know what to do, it's really hard to take them out. So instead I just suit up with a whole bunch of damage reduction. Like, you can see this has 2 bear runes in it. So it's got damage reduction by 31%. I also have another one to stack up some resistances in case I need it. This is almost a perfect COA right here. I actually found this one. I couldn't believe it. But it's the only thing that's not perfect about it is the defense. Like, it can get up to, I think, like 150 defense for a total defense of 399. But the other rolls are what's most important. Like, your resistances can be 30. This is 30. I actually have some jewels in it to make it higher than that. But the damage reduction can be up to 15%. This is 15%. And believe it or not, your sockets actually vary on COAs. Like, you can have either 1 or 2 sockets, and this rolled 2 sockets. So this is the best COA I have ever found. Likely in my life, will never find a better one. It was astonishing. I was like, yeah, I might as well be done MFing on Diablo because I'll never find a better item. But yeah, those are the basic builds, man. And yeah, I basically just can't wait for Friday when ladder resets. But so if you haven't checked out my YouTube channel, man, check that out. See some of the duel videos I put up. Some are really terrible quality because I was just kind of getting my computer set up and testing things, and when I recorded them, it looked like they came out a lot better than they did, so sorry about that. But some of them were really good. But yeah, check that out. I also plan on streaming this Friday for ladder reset. And is JSP the main way of trading now? Basically, from what I've seen, like, there does exist an in-game trading community still, but a lot of the stuff, like if you're going after super rare, super old stuff, there's no other place to get it. Like you're not typically going to get that stuff in a public game, like especially for a good price. You know what I mean? And if you do, I would suspect something. It's probably dupes and will poof on you. So, but yeah, good question, man. But yeah, so a lot of the people are using that. Like a lot of people that play D2 right now are using D2 JSP just because it's the best way to find what you're looking for. Like you can do searches for threads that, you know, people have the items specifically that you're looking for. Or, you know, some people play it like the stock market too. Like they'll buy an item low and they'll resell it for high. You know, those are the snipers is what I like to call them. They jump on those auctions like real quick, and they, you know, if someone posts up a buy it now price, they'll just buy it and, you know, take it from someone who needs it so they can make a profit. You know, that's but we all do it from time to time, right? Like it happens. If something's so low in price, you might not need it, but you're like, oh, I'll spend 5 forum gold on this. Like, sure. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's basically the main way. There's no other efficient way to get the items that you want. I mean, next to MFing. I think honestly the chance of MFing the item that you want these days is probably better than in-game trading. If you're looking for like a really rare item, it's you know, the trading community for the most part, it's in-game is a bit dilapidated. But I guess that depends as well if you're playing on ladder or non-ladder. If you're playing on ladder, previous statement, not necessarily true. Like there's, you know, if you're looking for like a COA on ladder, or if you're looking for a Shaco, like you could easily post up a game that's like bring Shaco, and it's such a common item, probably someone has it, will join your game. But if you're like, you know, you post a game that's like bring sick paladin helm. You know what I mean? And like you kind of know what you want in your head, but there's no way you can convey that to people in like the short description you need to put in your game for your trade. You're probably not gonna come to a deal. Like you're probably not gonna find what you're looking for. So yeah, like if you're looking for like super rare items or like really specific items, a lot of times like JSP is definitely the way to go. But if you're, you know, if you're just looking for common stuff like, you know, Grief Hodo, like the stuff that most, like, you know, the cookie cutter builds, you know, for lack of a better term, like they have them or they need them, you could definitely do that in game. Like, you know, those items for sure you could pick up, especially on ladder. Like there's so many more people that play ladder than non-ladder. So, you know, that you might run into different issues if you were trying to get those items on ladder. Like if you make a game that's like bring perfect grief or whatnot, chances are no one's going to join that. Like they're super rare, or, you know, maybe someone will join it. They're like, I have an almost perfect one, you know, but you know, JSP, you can search through like tons of posts for, you know, items that people have that they're trying to sell. You know, sometimes you can barter with them. But yeah, it's also a pretty good community there, man. Like, the people on JSP typically pretty good. They have a really good system in place on their site too, to like, you know, prevent basically scammers and people that have a bad reputation. They, you know, protect you from them and they kick them off the site. Like it's really cool, man. It's a pretty decent community. But yeah, I think I'm signing off for the night, guys. I just wanted to pop on and show you some Diablo builds that I have that I can't wait to like move some items over on ladder reset. And after we're done grinding on Friday and like really seeing how far we can get, you know, and what we can do on ladder reset, I'm definitely moving some of these items over and we're going to test out some of these builds. Like, I can't wait to duel with some of these guys. Like, new items, new charms. I'm pumped. And thank you so much for joining me. Tiabite, good luck with reset. You too, my man, if you play. Very good luck. I hope you find a bear rune or jaw rune day one, my friend. But, all right, I will catch you next time. I will be back on, like I said, on Friday for ladder reset. So we will see you then.